Hello and welcome to Colin Bradley Artcast. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley,
How you doing, Dad?
ready and raring. I'm ready and raring to go, Steve. That's what I was going to say. Got a lot to talk about today, haven't we?
We
And
have.
I'm looking forward to it.
Mm. Yeah. There is a fair amount that's come in and updates on last week of the picture, a new product that's been gifted to us to try out. So, got a little bit of a product review and also a viewer's question as well, calling back
Hmm.
on something from a good few episodes ago, actually. Let's start with that. So, Charles, I
Good
don't know
idea.
if you guys remember that Charles sent us a picture of this stone bridge and asked how you would do it, Dad. And so you gave him some tips and techniques of how to achieve that. And Charles has actually gone away and finished the picture. So let's put up Charles's picture on screen. Thornrose Cemetery, I think it's called Thornrose Cemetery Bridge. And so Charles has sent it and he's asked us, well, you, not me, for some advice. So I'm going to read Charles's email. I have attached both the original photo I sent and the finished version using Faber-Castell pastel pencils. I'd love any feedback you can give, Colin. And please tell him, whilst my finished product isn't up to your quality, I surely couldn't have gotten started without. I surely couldn't have even got started without your very valuable suggestions. Thank you. I'm fairly pleased with the outcome, although I'm not as happy with the lighter wall to the right as I am with the bridge. Somehow the lighter wall just looks flat. It's not supposed to be. Also, if I had to do it over, and I probably will try again, I wouldn't make the shadows quite so stark and sharp edged, although that's the way they appear in the photo. Many thanks, guys. So, what do you think here, Dad?
I think it's done very well. It's done very well because this is in the same category as rocks, isn't it? Which we've had so many discussions about. Rocks, stone walls, anything like that, and trees particularly, are really hard because you can't get your teeth into it. You do what you see and you think, well, why isn't it working? Well, I think it's done very well, to be honest. What is needed really is to temper those darker areas, to bring them back a little bit. And you can do that by putting a putty rubber on it, just taking some of the darkness away. But more importantly, really, you have the difference between the dark and the light. If we just pick one particular spot, on the right, the bottom of that light wall, not right at the bottom, but the second area up, just go along a little bit further to the right. That's it. That's the one. That's the one that I'm going to pick out. Okay. You see, it's chalk and cheese. Now, what we want is some intermediary colour that separates those two together. And more the right hand side of that area that we've got there. If you were to temper that, lead into it rather than say, oh, let's start, because as Charles said, it looks flat, and it will look flat because you haven't got a dimension there. Are you with me? And what you need is something in between those two to give it a little bit of roundness, to put them. And if you did that to all of the rocks, each one in turn, what does work if you go up right at the top, second from the left, the other way, that a little bit further across to the right of that, no, the other way. That's it. Stop there. Now that one, you see how that, if you look at the dark edge and you look at the light, you've got different tones between the two, and it looks more three-dimensional, doesn't it? Now, if you did every one of those bricks in that kind of idea, you're going to get it right. You can also probably lighten a little bit more. You could put a bit of brightness in it as well where needed. But that one, I think, is an exceptional. That is done brilliantly.
Mm.
You see what I mean? It's very real looking.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, So how would you do that? You'd apply some of the light back into those areas, sort of just
Hmm.
subdue those shadow dark areas a little bit.
Well, I would copy what is done there all over and the same idea because I think that will work really well. Sometimes you do want a sharp edge. You have a rock with a sharp edge. There's a couple there that I can see that actually would work. But this is the problem, and you've got to when you're doing something like this, you're mindful that you've got to work very hard to try to create the impression that you want. Because what tends to happen is that you get to a point where you say, well, that'll do. And that's not good enough. You can't say, well, that will do. You've got to keep going at it until you work. Now, it's easy for me to say that, but practice and experience will come into it there. But it's a good idea, and I think I would agree with Charles, isn't it, to actually do that again. Keep that one, keep it to one side. You could alter it, but if he wants to do it again, I think I would do it again, but leave that so that you can compare it and see how, with my little tips that I've given you there, have actually brought that to life. It's very,
Mm.
very difficult. I admire him immensely for trying it because not a lot of people would be able to get even to that stage.
Mm. Well done, Charles, and thanks again for sharing the finished picture. I hope that people have found that interesting. It's nice to call back on something that you've offered advice on and see the finished
Mm.
project. So well done, Charles. Thanks for sharing. I hope that's been helpful. Um, right then, before we move on to an update from last week, how you're getting on with that picture, I thought we'd talk about a product that was sent to us by Dryad Education, and you can find them at dryadeducation.co.uk. This isn't anything sponsored or paid, advert or anything like that. They just gifted us their pencils, their pastel pencils to try. Messaged us on Instagram, and so they sent them some pencils. So you gave them a try. I'm going to just show the pencils on screen. These are Specialist Crafts Spectrum Artist. So that's the brand. Let's find the picture of them. Here they are. You took a nice picture for me, Dad. Thank you for that. So let me just find this. So these are the pencils. You can see the Spectrum Artist. Let me just turn this around. There you go. You can see that they've got color numbers. And what I like about these pencils, Dad, is they are solidly the color that you're using. Like
That's
there's
right.
no kind of like Carbothello, although Carbothello obviously had the grey end. But I think they look quite nice, and that's quite a really like clever idea to see how the colours look, and especially if you're teaching, they certainly can't mistake the colour you're using, can they?
Not really. No, no, that's the colour. If you look,
Um,
if you look at the end of the pencil, when I first saw these, I thought, where's the pastel then? Well, that is the pastel. It's a solid pastel. It's like having a big pastel lead, but it's coated in a plastic. Now, I've got one here. It's coated in plastic. So that this is all. This is the exposed area. That bit there is the exposed area. So that's what you're actually drawing with or shading with. When you get to about there, just that point there, okay, what you're getting is a plastic covering, very thin plastic covering. And interesting enough, you can use the pencil sharpener with this. It doesn't break. And I use just a normal pencil sharpener. And when you break, and then eventually, when you get down, as I have done with the white, because I've sharpened that a few times, when I get down to it, it can peel off. But that's okay, because it doesn't peel off all the way through. So, of course, you can handle it. You're not going to get mucky at all.
hmm,
And as you said quite rightly, it's a very clever idea.
hmm.
And I think they'll do well.
Yeah, just to touch on a bit. I mean, the idea of these pencils being able to be sharpened in a pencil sharpener is such a huge plus. I think that's an absolute
Absolutely.
win for a lot of people, and they're a very affordable set at the moment on their website. They're on sale at $25.99 for this set of 24, and the pack of 12 is $14.99. So they're very affordable, which again I think is a huge bonus. And I think, as you said, Dad, starting out, if someone's starting out with pastel pencils, this is a good range to start with. You had a little go with them, had a little experiment to see what you could do. And so I want to show the picture that you did just as a bit of fun to show what you were able to achieve with it. Now, you used pastel matte paper, your favourite pastel matte paper for this one.
Mhm.
How did you find they responded? I can see already. Let me show. You can see already that white you've clearly used a lot of. Look at
Mhm.
that one. In comparison. Actually, this is really interesting. You can see how much you've used of certain colours just
Well,
by.
the blue as well. If you look at the blue and the white, both of those, because you've got the sky, imagine, and they had to fill it up. And you, as you know, and people know when they try it, when you're using pastel matte, you've got to put a lot on,
Mm.
but you get that effect, which is really nice. And that took me, I don't know, half an hour, three-quarters of an hour to do, I suppose. It's very quick. Um, it's not. It's actually not far short of A5. I think I would say. Let's have a look at it. It's A5. Yeah, about A5 size. So it's not a bad size.
Mm.
And but it worked out. The only restriction that I had, because I had restricted colours. You think, well, you've got 24 colours, surely you can use them. Well, I didn't use that many of them, only about a third of them. But I lacked, when I'm, yes, that's a good idea to show that. Those are the colours I actually used. So you can see it's about half, isn't it? And but I would have liked. I mean, if I was doing it with the pastel pencils, I'd have used quite a few more, and probably a few different colours as well. You know,
Mm.
different tones. But you get what you pay for, really, and they have turned out like that first
Mm.
time. And I didn't copy anything; it was just made up out of my head. So I
Mm.
just did it. But it's similar to other things that I've done before. It's not that new. But
Mm.
yeah, I was quite pleased with the way they reacted. You
Mm.
still got to work in the same way, though. You're still working on the light to the dark. I'm not sure how the light would go on top of the dark. Haven't really tried that. So it may be that that might be a restriction. I don't know. But I think it's a good example of what you can do with them.
What's the pigment like compared to? They look quite bright actually on the paper. What's the pigment like compared to the other brands that you use?
I would say they're softer than the Faber-Castell, without doubt. I would say they're probably nearer Caran d'Ache in terms of softness. So you get that, as you say, you can see that kind of brilliance. Now, I did use buttermilk paper. You can't really see that very clearly on there, but it's you can see under the tape where it's got that buttermilk look.
That's the colour there, isn't it?
It's a
Yeah,
bit
that's the colour of the
deceptive.
paper.
Yes, it's sort of peachy, I suppose you could say, light peachy colour. But I chose it because, of course, I wanted the sand to show up, and I haven't really got sand colours there. If you look at them, I've got that ochre, so and that went in with the white, and then you've got the oranges and so on. So I had to make a little bit of little bit up, but it's nice. And I think, as you quite rightly said, if you're starting out, this is the perfect way of starting out. You haven't got any sharpening problems, for one thing. And I think, if I was being honest, you probably could use them in conjunction with pastel pencils.
They wouldn't be your main set, especially you as like, professional doing this for years. They wouldn't be your main set, but they could be supplementary colors. If people bought this set, they could be supplementary colors to other sets.
Absolutely, and because you've got nice, vibrant colours there, and I think they would look very nice for that price, Steve. You can't really go wrong, can you? For that set of they would probably last you a while, unless you were using just whites. I mean, as you can see, the white's gone down. I don't know, about not very much, about a centimetre, just over a centimetre. I've used of that. And when you think of how much white is actually on that picture, which is A5, it's not bad. It's probably equivalent to what I would use if I was using Caran d'Ache on its own.
Great stuff. Well, a thank you to them for sending over the pencils for trying out. It's been really, it's been really great to experiment with them. If you want to learn more, I'll try and pop a link in this podcast description. But if you just Google Dryad Education or Specialist Craft Spectrum pastel pencils, you will find them. I am sure of it. Okay, lovely stuff. Let's move on to an update on how you've been getting on. So you've sent me a couple of stages of your picture. Shall I show last week's stage,
I
actually?
think it's a good idea. Yes, good idea. Show last week's, and then you've got the other two.
I think you had this one last week because we talked about the crack.
That's exactly right. Yes, that's right. It was quite an interesting one, wasn't it? But if you look at before we actually I show you the picture. If you look at the Blue Peter Inn particularly, look how intricate that is. I didn't like the roof very much. I thought that roof looked a bit, what can I say, being kind. It looks a bit patchy and old. Didn't look nice. I'm trying to be kind. It certainly something needs to be done about that, I would have thought eventually. Anyway, I did. Being an artist, I thought, no, we'll make a slightly better job of it, so I did. But if you look at the picture as a whole, remember I told you last week we were going to get rid of, and I showed you the picture, we got rid of all the railings and so on. But I wanted to leave the billboards down there. Well, the next picture doesn't show that, but the final one that I'm going to show you today will. And I've still got work to do on the left-hand side. I haven't done anything on that. And, of course, the harbour. I haven't done anything with the harbour and the water yet. That's something to come. But you can see the next couple of stages. The next stage will be good because it's where the roof comes in. And if you remember that roof, well, I cleaned it up a bit.
Did some work on it, some building work on it.
Well, I had to leave it as though it was old. I mean, this is a Polperro. I don't know how old it is, but it's pretty ancient. That roof has probably been replaced in that time anyway. But I wanted to put that in because I love doing that kind of thing. I love playing with the tones and colours and trying to create an image that would.
There's lovely colours in that roof.
There are. The grey starts the ball rolling, actually. When you put the grey on, which is I left the 270 and the 273, those two greys. Those were the starting colours. And then I added ochre, a couple of ochres, 283 played quite a big part. And then 177, which is your brown. But had you put brown on directly, you see, it would have been too striking. It had to be subdued. And I think this is one of the secrets you have when you're doing the kind of work that I do. You've got to subdue it. You can't have it too bright, too in your face. But the white that you see there that was put on at the top, that's put on afterwards. Some of it's left when you're putting the dark colours on. But it's coming along. But you can see what I have ahead of me now. What I had ahead of me was the Blue Peter Inn sign. Now that's one of the I've done quite a few of this kind of thing, and I think, well, this is going to be quite hard because it's not on a signboard. It's actually, I think it must have been painted on the wall itself.
Mm.
And whoever did it made a really good job of it, a better job than I've done of it. But that was when I looked at that, I thought, this is going to take time. But I was determined to make that the focus of the picture. It's the most important part of the picture, if you think of it.
I want to just draw your attention to. I don't know if people remember last week we were talking about this crack.
Mm-hmm.
You've extended it. It looks like
I have.
you've made much more of it than there was last week.
I have.
I'm a bit worried about these people now.
I certainly wouldn't want to live in that house or have something done about it. That's true. Well, but look how much more attractive, from our point of view, it is, much more appealing than if it was just plain, which it was, boring with wires going around it. I mean, this is one of the great things we have when we're doing our work. We can elaborate, make it look just that, which I have done with the rest of the picture. And the one particular thing before we actually go on to this, you see the window at the bottom by the door, that quite large window. And you see that I've just put the window frames in. Now I've spent quite a lot of time on that, and I had to think about how I was going to present that. The other two windows above are fairly straightforward, but that window is the window of a pub. It's a pub, so you'd go into that door and you'd have your drinks and other things. And so I had to try to create an atmosphere, which I have done on the next picture.
That's a really lovely segue. Thank you, Dad.
Mm-hmm.
Let's show this one. Bit of a difference.
Oh, yes. What a difference. And if you pick up that, if you go right and hone in on that window that I was talking about.
You have put someone in the picture. You have put a figure in the picture just through the window.
I have. You're quite right. And I was quite proud of that. I thought that epitomizes what that is. It's someone having a leisurely drink. I don't know whether it's a man or it doesn't matter. It's not important. And I had the figure with his back. Well, it could be front, but I had the idea that it was his back to it put in as well. So all of that, I have a lot of fun with that. And I thoroughly
look how small that is. Like, this is all jargon. Like, I'm zoomed right in, and I imagine this is actually very tiny when you're actually looking at it, because this is all just this. On the signs, it's just nothing, is it? It's just.
I couldn't understand it on the picture, on the reference picture. I couldn't understand it. But the Blue Peter Inn sign itself, as you say, that's been painted on the wall, and how and that's not easy to do.
Yeah, no, I bet it's not. The texture of that building is fab as well. It really is very interesting. You've put in some detail here up the top as well.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the flag. I mean, that flag alone doesn't look that easy to do. It's coming out at an angle as well. You've got the 3 dimensions there to try and deal with.
One of the things too, if you go right down to the bottom of the picture, bottom of the door really, the doorway, go over a little bit, over the other side a little bit. That's it there. Now, imagine putting those steps in. Now that's all black. It has to be black. How would you differentiate between the steps and the columns and so on? And that, I really enjoyed that. You part with the grey, and then you have to segment it, so it looks as though you can walk up those stairs into the door. and I have a lot of fun with that.
Wow. Yeah, it looks like you did. There's a lot of really interesting details to put in here. It's looking really, really good. And this is up to date. This is this morning, wasn't it, that you finished this?
Yes, I finished that. Yes, probably about 2 hours ago that I was putting those billboards up and the plant pots up. But you've got to you've got to you've got to take what you can see on the reference picture and then say, what can I do with this? Because I couldn't copy that window at all. There's nothing in that. It was just a plain window. And so I've really enjoyed doing this. This has been, as you know, Steve, this is my thing. If I could do all that all the time, I'd be really pleased. But I have to do animals and I have to do the other things, and I love doing them, all of them.
Hmm.
And I've got a couple of crackers following these, and I've recently found one particular one which people are going to go mad on. I can predict that ahead of time. It's got everything in it, and it's also in snow as well. So that's something to savour. But that's going to come. When I finish this one, it'll be probably in a couple of weeks. We'll have a couple more stages with this and have a bit of fun with this, and then I'll start on the other one. And I'll do the same with that. I'll show you little sections of that as we
Brilliant.
go along.
Fantastic. Well, next week, I'm sure we'll have the finished picture to show everyone of this one.
Cross fingers.
Fingers
Maybe
crossed.
it'll be nearly finished anyway. It may not be finished because there's still a lot of work involved in that, especially when the harbour and the boats and so on. No, I think we probably have another couple of weeks before I can actually say I'm going to finish it off.
Great stuff. Great stuff. And of course, if people remember the net curtain and vase, I'm just going to see if I can find it. That picture went up this week as well. Let me just show you. This picture is now on the website. Let me find that for you guys. There it is. This tutorial is now up on the website, so people can watch and see how you learned how to do this picture if they remember it from a little while ago. It was really interesting watching you achieve this effect, and I hope that people are going to really enjoy watching and copying you and learn a lot from that transparent sheen and netting, net curtain. It's such a fantastic flowy fabric that I think is really fascinating to see how you do that. So that course is up. I'm working on the mandrel, which is the next picture, and then we've got just an ongoing list of many pictures that are coming to the site. But yeah, if you're a member, then you already have access to that class as part of your membership, but you can of course enroll in that class on its own if you want to just buy that one outright. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Dad, for all of your advice and your tips and your reviews. We'll be back next week to show how you're getting on with the landscape. But for now, we will leave it there for this week. So thank you, everyone, for watching and for listening. I'm Stephen Bradley.
And I'm Colin Bradley.
Enjoy your week.